Farm Park. If you haven't been to Norristown Farm Park before, it's beautiful. We have about 690 acres. We have paved trails, we have nature trails, we've got a pond and all sorts of fun stuff, a creek to fish in. So it's a beautiful place to be if you haven't been here before. So I've been with the farm park for about a year now, and today we're going to talk about bird songs. So here, let me share my screen. Okay, so bird songs. Last time I talked about birds themselves, like how to ID, and a lot of people, if you ID a bird visually, you can also ID most birds by sound too. There we go. So I'm going to play a couple sounds and we're going to see if you've heard them before. You probably have. These two are very common in our area. As I'm playing it, there's a particular bird outside calling right back to me through my window. So this is a northern cardinal. I like to tell little kids, and it references very well with them, that they sound like laser guns. So pew, 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 pew. A lot of things we're going to talk about when we're trying to learn sounds is you want to think about something that's going to make it easier for you to learn it. So some people put onomatopoeias to it, different words, there's all sorts of stuff, but you're going to have to figure out that one thing that really works for you. Here's our next call. So again, this one's very common. You probably have these in your backyard too. And it's a blue jay. So blue jays, again, the way I reference it with kids is they say their name, Jay, Jay, Jay. So if you listen to it, it sounds like they actually say their name. Now, songbirds, which are our warblers, our cardinals, they have this special part in their body that's called a syrinx, and it's the bird's voice box. And this picture is amazing because it kind of shows you what you're looking at. So the syrinx has two valves that work independently or they can work together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a video of how they work. So Cornell Lab is amazing. Cornell Lab of Ornithology has everything you can imagine. And this is an animation of how the syrinx works. So this is the northern cardinal we just talked about. And now I'm going to play this. You can see how half the syrinx was working and then the other half joined in. It's unlike our voice box because our voice box works together, like we can only make one noise at a time, where the syrinx is two separate entities for a bird. So then they have another example. This is a canary. This is a domestic canary. So like if you've ever owned a canary. You see how fast that works? Again, we can't be that quick when we speak, but this helps them move and speak faster. That's a brown thrasher. So not all birds have super crazy, unique sounding calls. Some are short and sweet. And here's our last one, is a wood thrush. So again, that syrinx is what helps those birds be able to make those sounds. So we're going back to the PowerPoint. So they call these guys the vocal gymnasts because they can adjust and make so many different noises. And there are non-song birds that have simpler calls. Think about a great blue heron or a Canada goose or a duck. Those don't have such unique calls as our songbirds do. The other thing is they do have different calls. They have a call versus a song, which does different things. So a song is to attract mates, where a call is more of a like, oh my gosh, there's something happening. We need to be prepared for it. So why do birds sing? They are claiming territory. They're attracting mates. Why do they sing at dawn? Scientists are actually not sure why. I mean, a lot of people think, you know, everybody comes out, the birds are chirping in the morning is because they're trying to catch the worm before the day goes. And that could be part of it, but they're not totally sure of the reason why birds sing in the morning. In the temperate zone, male birds have more complex songs, where in the tropics, the males and the females both have complex songs. So in our area, most of the females have shorter calls than the males, and the males have the more complex calls, and that's because they're trying to attract mates with those sounds. Another thing is they're just like people. So as they're born, they don't know this is their call. We have to call exactly like that. They learn as they go. So a hatchling is going to have a smaller, more unique call that's not like, it might confuse you when you're trying to learn calls, whereas an adult, it'll sound exactly like what the standard is. So I have a great video that shows that too. So this is Hear Them Practice. Again, Cornell Lab, great resource. So this is a white-throated sparrow. So white-throated sparrows are only in our region in the winter time. So these guys are probably not around anymore. But listen to our white-throated sparrow as it's practicing, as it's learning its call. So it doesn't actually do a complete call, when as an adult, so you can hear the crispness in the adult, where our young one is missing some sounds in there, missing some notes. So I am totally that person that goes outside and goes, that doesn't sound right. And it's probably because it's a young bird. The other thing is there are some birds that mimic other calls, which makes it complicated to know for sure that you're hearing that particular species. So catbirds can make all different calls. Them and thrashers and mockingbirds, they're in that family. Blue jays, they can actually sound like a red-shouldered hawk. And it's because they're trying to scare things away or, protect their food source. So they actually sound like a predator. But if you hear it, you have to decide, is it an actual mimicker or is it the real species? My mouse is not working. There it is. So how do we learn bird songs? First, you need to learn how to describe a bird song. So when you hear a call, they have different rhythms, different pitches, different tones, if they're repeating each other, the same words. Also, this is how I learn bird calls. I observe the bird as it's making the call because I feel like it connects better with my brain. Some people, you can buy those CDs and put them in your car and listen to them when you're driving. That's great, but I'm a very visual person. So if I see the bird making the call, it helps me learn it faster than me just listening to the call of the bird. You can go on bird walks and you learn with other people. That's another great way that I've found to learn bird calls. I've attended many bird walks and someone goes, oh, that's a cuckoo. And I go, which is a cuckoo? And as I'm listening, it just makes it, oh, you're out in the field, you're paying attention to it, you understand it. And then, like I said, the other way to learn it is to do add the words to it. So there's this great little thing called an identifier. And I have one, and it puts little cards in that has all the different birds in it, and it actually adds the lyrics to it. So my identifier, I'm going to pick a cardinal, if you can hear it.
Northern cardinal. Cheer, cheer, cheer. Party, party, party.
So again, it puts that word with it that helps you think, oh, when I'm outside, that's what it sounds like. So let's learn about how to describe some bird calls. So like I said, there's a different rhythm where it's more leisurely and relaxed, or if they're in a hurry and it's super fast. The pitch, going from a high scale to a low scale, going from a low scale to a high scale, having a low tone, or a low pitch, having a high pitch. So every bird, it can be described a little different. The repetition is if the bird repeats the same word. So like, there's one bird we're going to talk about that goes, Peter, 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 Peter. It's the same thing repeated 3 or 4 times. And then the tone, which is going to be whistles, flute-like, trills, and harsh sounding. When you hear them, you'll kind of understand the descriptors. So first one we're going to listen to is an American crow. Oh, I have to turn that off. Oh my gosh. So if you listen, to that, the tone is automatically harsh. It's got that raspy harshness to it. It also has a lot of repetition. So caw, 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 caw. The pitch is obviously a low pitch because it's very deep in tone. And it's a very leisurely in a descriptive. So it's not very quick. Now we're going to listen to a cedar waxwing, which sounds totally different. So our rhythm would be hurry. It would be fast and jumbled. The pitch is very high. The repetition, it kind of has a repetition, but it's very sporadic. And then it's more of a flute or a whistle-like sound to it because it's very, very high-pitched. So the chipping sparrow, it's a trill. That's what we would call a trill. So you hear the trill part of it. It's all on the same pitch. It's not going up or down. It would be a hurry because it's very quick moving, and it sounds like a repetition also. Then our last one is a prairie warbler. So again, if you listen to it, it goes up the scale. So do 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 do. It's getting to a higher pitch from a lower pitch. It would be considered, I would say, flute-like or whistles, and it's more of a leisurely. If you compare it to like the cedar waxwing, it doesn't move as quickly. So now, this is the way I like to learn, and this is a video from YouTube. So the Eastern Towhee, the way that I personally learned an Eastern Towhee was sitting there and watching this bird jump around. So again, you're describing it. It's leisurely. It's a pitch is lower. There's a little bit of repetition, but not like crazy. But it does have that wording to it. So the way I would describe this: drink your tea, drink your tea. If you listen to it, drink your tea. The other way I learned it was it sounds like it's saying its name a little bit. Eastern Towhee, Eastern Towhee. And that's what helps me figure it out. I've seen the bird make the noise. I watched it. I pulled it up on a bird book and I said, oh, it's an Eastern Towhee. And then I learned the Eastern Towhee. And then somebody else told me to drink your tea, which I thought was really interesting too. Now we're going to talk about a tufted titmouse. You guys might have seen these all winter long. They seem to be more of a winter-based bird. They used to be year-round, but I don't know if the temperature change has moved them. But they were around most of the winter, and now I haven't seen them since it turned into spring. So you can hear the very high pitched part of that. That's actually more their warning call. If you heard behind it, it sounded like it was saying Peter, Peter, Peter. These guys say Peter, Peter, Peter. Again, you have to realize that birds make multiple calls. So the more nasally little whistles it's making is also a tufted titmouse call, but the big one that you might hear is the Peter, Peter, Peter. Let me see if I can point it out. Hear it in the background, Peter, Peter, Peter. But again, it's great to be able to see the bird as it's making the noises. Okay, red-winged blackbirds. These are my favorite. This is the very first bird that I learned how to identify by sound. These guys like a lot of wetlands, so if you have a lot of wetlands around you, you're going to hear them. So these guys, another way you can take your calls, so it sounds like conqueree is what the wording is, conqueree. But again, if you hear these guys and it's a wetland, then yes, that's probably the bird. But if you're in the middle of the forest with no water around you, it's got to be something different. So you can also see about the habitat to tell you exactly what the bird species is too. So conqueree is the red-winged blackbird. And then owls. Everybody wants to learn owl calls, and owls are easy to learn because they all sound so different. So automatically when you hear the hoo, 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 that is a great horned owl. Every person thinks every owl hoos, but it's not true. Every owl makes a different noise. This guy is a barred owl, and barred owls like more wetland areas. So the ones you probably are hearing in the middle of town are definitely great horns or screech owls, but this guy has one of my favorite calls. So it sounds like he's saying, who cooks for you? Who cooks for you all? They also do this thing called caterwauling, which they go, wah, 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 wah. They sound kind of monkey-like. It's really funny. I actually was at another park, and there was a gentleman who literally could do this call and call the owl into them, which I thought was amazing. I don't know how you can move your mouth like that, but if you can make a bird call and they come back to you, that's amazing. So when we're looking at bird calls, you just have to get out there and get familiarized with them and look at what you're thinking. Like, look at it, listen to it, put some words to it, do whatever is going to make you learn it better. I have a friend who is doing the videos or the DVDs, the sound, and I just can't learn that way. I like looking at them on YouTube and you can see it. The oven bird is our last bird. You can hear that it starts really quietly and then gets louder. This is also, they call the teacher bird, because it sounds like it's saying teacher, but getting louder as it goes. So teacher, 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 teacher. These guys are pretty small birds. They like really forested areas. So again, if you're here at the farm park, I don't know that you would hear these guys specifically, just because we don't have the deep, dense forest that they like. But they definitely sound like they're saying teacher, 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 teacher. Some helpful apps that you could use if you're super into birding and you want to learn more. The Cornell Merlin app is great. That's what I use all the time in the field. So I'll hear a call and go, that sounds very warbler-like, and I might think it's like 1 or 2 species. I can actually listen to the call of those particular species and say, oh, that's which one I just heard. And it helps me be able to understand which bird I'm listening to versus which bird I think it is, but I'm wrong. Like I said, Cornell Lab of the Bird Academy or Bird Song Heroes is another way to learn. The Bird Song Heroes, it actually plays it for you because they use something like a pictogram where it shows you the movement, and it's cool if you have time to sit there and learn it. I don't have time to sometimes sit there and do all the amazing classes that they have on Cornell. But Cornell has a bunch of different types that would be great for you if you're just learning. I actually took one class and I was able to download a bunch of different songs, and I have them on my computer. That's how I imported most of the songs into this PowerPoint. But you can keep it on your phone. You can play them in your car. Like I said, the only problem is having the difficulty of not being able to see the bird at the same time as the sound. So that's really what I have for bird calls. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. These are upcoming programs if you're interested in in-person programs on the facility site. So at Norristown Farm Park, frogs are another interesting animal that calls during the spring. So each frog has their own different call. If you are interested in learning about that, we're going to take a walk through the park and try to identify identify frogs as we walk around. We also have birding programs, so come out and hike and use the actual visual birding. We have those Saturday, April 3rd, and then we also do them on Tuesdays. And actually, this one is wrong. The dark sky program got moved until July, so don't look at the dark sky program. It's wrong. But the bird of prey program has, I believe they're bringing a screech owl from the zoo, so that one should be cool too. Let me know if you have any questions. I guess so.
I have 2 questions for you.
Go ahead.
So the first one is, can baby birds hear through the shell of their eggs before they're born?
So I'm not positive. I feel like they can, because I know chickens, like the parents will peep at the chickens, the chicks and the eggs, but I'm not positive about that. I would have to do some research.
And another question, and if you have more questions, you can send them through the chat to me and I'll tell them to Rebecca. The next question is, do birds have accents based on the area they're from?
They do. So I was reading a bunch of research about that, and they were saying that some of birds, if they're localized in one area, might have a slight different in like tone or pitch. I think they were talking specifically about bluebirds in the research I was reading. That they were like stuck in one area and that one had a different tone to it than like the ones out here in Pennsylvania versus the Western state birds.
All right. Let me see, your frog program that you posted, what time is that one?
That is at 7:15 in the evening.
In the evening, got it. Okay, and people just need to email you about it?
Yeah, if you could register, because we're trying to watch how many people come to the programs, obviously. So it's about 25 to 30 people each program. So if you register with me, that would be the best.
Okay, perfect. Let me see, any other questions from anyone? If not, we will be having more programs with Rebecca because she's awesome. So she's going to do a program next month for us on butterflies. And in the month after that, I believe May, we're going to be having a program on baby animals. So hopefully you'll be able to join in with that as well.
Yes. Right. And, if you're really interested in birds, I only got interested in birds in college. Don't be afraid to start late. I mean, I was interested in birds, but I didn't start hardcore birding until I was in college. And now I'm like, addicted. So it definitely can be an addictive thing to do because you just get so interested. I went out the other day and I saw a greater scaup, which is a waterfowl that's not normally in Pennsylvania, and that's a rare find. And when you find rare finds, it makes it all worth it in the long run.
I do have a question. This is Wendy. Can you send us the links to register for the upcoming sessions of like frogs and birds, etc.?
Yeah, what I can have Pam add my email in there because there's no like link that you need to register. Those are all in person, so you'd have to drive to the farm park.
Right.
Except for the butterfly and the baby animal one will be virtual, will be through Zoom.
But you want us to register for planning to come in person for a count?
Correct, yeah.
Okay,
so I will make sure that Pam has my email, and if she sends an email out with everybody saying thank you, just feel free to email me, tell me how many people you're planning on attending. I like to separate adult versus child just because it looks good for our, numbering system, so.
Great. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciated it. And I can send everybody link, or not the links, but Rebecca's email. And Rebecca, do you mind? Let me see. I'm going to pause the recording here.